Team, I now present to you Byron Alvarado.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I figured that we would more do a platform of questions, and I'll answer it. I won't get so much into detail because it's complex, and I'll briefly tell you what I do for those who do not know. My name is Byron Alvarado. I'm a financial strategist, which that really means I focus on financial strategies to get to your goals. Typical goals or typical clients that I have goals to one day to have the biggest vacation that they want, which is the retirement can be 10, 20, 15, 20, 40 years, who knows how long. And so I do the financial planning when people want to start using their savings and investments and really boil down to whatever they're doing right now, how far is it going to get them? Is there a gap to what they're used to living? And then we have those type of discussions. Part of retirement planning is also long-term care planning, meaning if you can't take that vacation because your funds are low, that's optional. But typically when someone in your household or yourself have a long-term care event, that's forced expense, and those expenses are typically higher. So I go over those scenarios, what the cost is and how to best protect and fund that person's care. But then it also helps and protects that person's legacy if that someone has a desire. So I do legacy planning, estate planning from a financial end, not as an attorney, but I work well with attorneys and other professionals. I do tax planning, not your every year tax planning, but your investments, your interests, anything you earn, your rental income, there's tax implications. So my job is how to position those assets so you can minimize taxation, not just on the front end of when you're saving, but also on the back end. And then the fourth, what I do is also talk about what if you don't make it home? What financial effect does that have to your family, if any? Or it's with some people I've come across, they may not care, but we have that discussion. So do people have enough money on the sidelines to replace their income if they do not come home or they're disabled? So those are the areas that I focus on the insurance end and also on the investment end. In my portfolio, I understand how real estate works, rental, so I don't do real estate, but I have an understanding how that affects a financial planner, should be part of it. Or if you're a business owner, you're putting money back into your own business, your own stock, right? But you have to understand, how are you going to take that out? How do you protect what you're shooting for on the valuation of your business? And how are you going to take that out tax efficient, and is that enough? So I actually help clients, if that's what their biggest asset's going to be, what do they have to do in their business to have a valuation for one day to sell that business, to therefore to generate that income, that standard of living for the rest of their life, maybe the rest of their spouse, and or their children and legacy. So I gave you a glimpse of things that I can cover. And so I'm going to open up the floor right now to see if anyone had any questions on investments, insurance, or just in general. Not in life, but focus on what I do. So does anyone have any question that I have?
The question I would have is, if you're self-employed, and throughout all my career, it's like you're making money, you make no money, you make money, you make no money. It's different than someone who has a salary and they say, okay, put away 10% because I'm putting away money, and then you have no money, you need to use that money to survive. So how do you find that for people that are more self-employed? So
those people who have not consistent income, it's a bit harder to plan for. But at the end of the day, it's up to them. They have to I believe, make an assessment that whatever their business they're doing, that if they're just putting it away and taking back out, they need to add another service. They need to get some more income, because you have to stock away. Otherwise, you always will be working, and that's okay too. But the real question is, when you can't work due to maybe physical constraints or mental constraints later on, where is that income going to be? Now, I tell my clients, you can rely on your family. Now, most people prefer not to be in that position, but I'm like, that's okay. Have a good relationship with your family or your kids. Make sure that they're successful, that they have the ability to help you in later in life. Now, you may not want to be in that position, because you also, realistically, then you put your kids and your grandkids in a harder position, because they can't save for whatever they're saving, or they have to save more. So it's a bit harder, people who don't have that consistent income, but 10% of something is something. So you have to lower your lifestyle. I usually don't work with a lot of people with that because they have buffers. My area that I work with is middle class, so not high net worth, but I do have some clients. But it's much harder to plan for people who are just putting food on the table, bare necessity clothes. I can educate them and hopefully motivate them to then get that extra job or grow a business, but it's much harder to plan for that. Stacey.
So what would be the age that you would suggest starting with, and what is that, because like I have college and kids in their 20s. I'm curious what you would suggest and what's that kind of bracket of income that you're looking at them starting with.
Save. Okay, so the first thing is the earlier you can save and put away and not dip into those things, the better. Why? Is because of compounding, right? We all know about. So people actually lose because the first 10, 15 years of working years, they have every excuse, in my opinion, every excuse in the world not to save. I don't care what percentage it is. So they really lose that compounding. Those first dollars would have compounded the effect. So they put themselves behind the 8 ball. So to answer your question is, people should start saving from day one, whatever that may be, right? The opposite, because a lot of people wait to save, right? And they use that same strategy, compounding, thinking, and they shoot for rates of return. They're trying to make that front end. It doesn't happen. It's like going to Vegas and like, I'm gonna just bet everything to try to make up. The house wins. So because you've already lost compounding, I mean, you should save. There's additional strategies that I know that can ultimately put you in a position to have higher income from whatever that pot of money is. So if you're a 50-year-old, there's other strategies you should probably take a look at that's not, because if you do what a 20-year-old will do and just that, it's not really efficient, right? Because compounding is very efficient when you start early, so the opposite has to be true. When you start later, it's not as efficient.
So like to give you an example, my youngest, he keeps doing little investment things of, I don't even know all these apps and things that they've got now, but it's little investment things. I'm like, why does all this keep coming out of your account? Well, it's just rounding it up, Mom, and it's set aside and it's in a
Acorn.
That's it, acorn. And I'm like,
Oh.
what's an acorn thing? Okay, well, and he's very consistent, but I'm thinking there might be better ways of him investing something because he's very consistent.
Well, you have time, investing is good. There's tons of investments.
Right.
When you word the word investments, you should also look at, you could lose all your money, right? So there's reasons for other things, banks. You don't earn a lot of interest, but you need liquidity. So it's just not about investing and having account value high, right? It's first understanding how much do you have to actually have, because ultimately people's ultimate goal is to stop working. 8 out of 10 people will hit retirement, or when they want to slow down, whatever, So I think for your son, that's good. He's taking the first step, which is pay himself first at whatever amount is the first step. It's like getting off, if you want to get back into shape, it's at least getting off the couch. Don't talk about all those complicated, weights and exercises. Get off the couch, walk around the block. It could be as simple as that. And so saving, paying yourself first, at whatever percentage. I typically challenge people to save at least 15% of what they make. Now, the longer you wait in saving, that percentage really increases high to get to that same point. Now, 15% is because there's always going to be taxes, right? So like 3% for taxes. There's going to be inflation, market risk. You're going to be, in retirement, you're going to want to buy things. People think that they lower their lifestyle in retirement. Typically not. And then so that's like, people, when DVDs came out, VCRs were just fine, but they end up buying the new technology. So companies are always looking to taunt you to try to buy their stuff. I mean, we're all business people. We want people to buy our things, right? And then refrigerators are those things that cars are going to break down. So those expenses continue through retirement. People kind of don't think about those things. And I'm not going to top, healthcare costs later on that potentially could devastate plan.
So I have a question about the 15%. So is that the same as your 401k? Or is this like you're investing separately in savings?
Well, 15% is total. So someone has a 401k. My rule of thumb is no one should put more than 7% into their 401k, and then the 8% somewhere else. Like, is that diversifying for a few reasons? One is a 401k. I think there's a question: IRA, traditional IRA, a SEP IRA. All those are housings that actual investments go in, but what those allow you to do is to invest your money, not pay taxes on your investment, on your contribution. It allows you to defer paying taxes on what you put away plus potential any earnings, right? And so when you put too much into that, when you retire, people think, well, I've saved money on taxes. No, you're just going to pay taxes later on with the unknown tax rate. And if you want to maintain your standard of living because of inflation, right? The value of your dollar decreases. You'll have to pull more money out just to buy the same thing something bought you 20 years earlier, right? So $100,000 today, you have to pull out $300,000, and just assume if the tax brackets don't change, you're going to be in a higher tax bracket automatically. So that's one reason I say you got to diversify in some of those vehicles. You got to diversify in some tax-free vehicles. Pay the piper now. You don't have to worry about it. Now in retirement, you have ways to manage taxation on the back end, right? I hope that answered your question.
That was good. Diversify to 15%.
Yeah.
So coming from the corporate world, past companies worked for had pension. Those companies are now pushing us to move that money outside of that pension with that corporate company, and like I'm temporarily going to move it to an IRA. Are there other better yielding investments that won't affect me in taxes right now to move that money to get a higher yield?
Okay, so back in the 1980s, there was, in late 70s, legislation changed where companies had pension plans. And really that was the obligation for the employer to provide a income replacement, like police officers, like CalSTRS with teachers, right? You can't remove those things. Well, legislation changed, and now those are called defined benefit plans. There was a benefit for you, right? It changed back in those times. Then 401ks, IRAs started coming out. It took the responsibility out of the employer and out onto the employee who have no knowledge, right? But they started saying, now you contribute, maybe we'll match. You invest, but those types of vehicles, 401ks, IRAs, you don't know what your income's going to be, realistically, right? And there's a whole new science behind that, and I don't think most people understand how to convert their investments into income. And that's the ultimate goal I tell my clients. What does it matter if you have $5 million accounts or $4 million? If a $4 million can actually produce more income and more stable income and longer income than a $5 million because of some reasons, that's ultimately what people should be judging. So one is when I tell people who have true pensions, I tell people understand if you keep it there, what type of income can you get? Then the next decision is, can I put that somewhere else with the same type of risk and get more income from it? So it's not really what my account value may grow to. I kind of gauge it towards what's the income. It's like real estate. We all have real estate. What's the big thing? If it's investment real estate, it's not the value of the house really until you sell it. It's what are my tenants going to pay and can I get market value? And do I have good tenants that are always going to pay?
Tear it up.
And there's expense, right? So that's ultimately what I try to focus people on is the right things. I think people focus too much on, here's my account value, here's my account value. And then what happens? Next month it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. That should be part of a plan, but there should be also other parts in the plan that adds up to whatever the income someone needs. Bobby, and then you.
So there was a, all right. 15, are we okay?
Yeah.
2 more questions, yeah.
Okay, so there was this guy on PBS for a while, and I can't remember his name, but he does like all his retirement stuff. And he said that you should take all of your like 401ks and enroll them into a Roth. And there was some special Roth.
Roth?
It's gonna go away soon, but get it in there. So Roth you get taxed now, is that right? And so then all that you have will grow
Tax-free.
Tax-free. Is that, can anybody put their money into a Roth? Can just anybody do that?
Yeah, so there's an IRA or a regular 401k, and there's a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k that employers have. So anyone can put into a Roth IRA based on income. So if you're a married couple making over 100 and adjusted gross income over 180 some thousand, I forget, then they phase out. So you can make too much money.
Okay.
So realistically, look, you kind of take a look at the game like, if I'm making a lot of money, the government doesn't want you to have tax-free income. They're like, pay your taxes. So it's more prone to people who make less money. So you pay, I say this, you have to make a decision today for the future. Do I pay taxes on the seed, or do I want to pay taxes on all the fruit it's always going to bear? Right? That's a Roth IRA. So anyone can put into an IRA as long as from an income standpoint they qualify.
So if you have a down year, so if we're both starting businesses and we're having a couple of down years, that would qualify us to go into a Roth.
Yeah, correct. You have to have earned income. And whenever you put into a retirement plan, you're stuck till 59 and a half. So there's some rules you just have to kind of take a look at. So you always need liquidity. So that's why I take a look at the whole picture. Last question? And I can answer questions afterwards.
Yeah, I know. She kind of stole part of my question, but let me ask you, in the order of investment, because me, I always thought Roth, but this to me, knowing what our taxes are now, it's like I'd almost, in many cases, just pay the taxes now, knowing that it can grow in so many different avenues through Roth. But where do you have that in, like, if someone's trying to put together a potential portfolio, is that like near the top of potential options for people, or do you tend to not put it quite that high with a traditional or something else?
It's more towards the top. So I break it down like this. If we go work out, the insurance is like the stretching, the warming up. No one likes to do it. When you're younger, you maybe get away with it because things don't happen. When you're older, you better stretch out. You're going to get injured and not reach your goals. So like the insurances, some of that I do and some of that Patty does, you got to take a look at that, because if that stuff happens, you maybe never dig your way out. Then I'd take a look at liquidity, right? Because you put any money into any kind of retirement plan, it's hard to get out without penalties unless there's hardship. So you need liquid, right? Because if you have fluctuating income or emergencies come up, you're not into debt. Then the third area I would take a look at is then retirement type of assets, or non-traditional retirement, real estate investment. Those things I help my clients do. But the Roth is up there because I do know that if someone is having a good lifestyle, they'll want in the back end, if they make it to retirement, which most people do, they want the ability to control their taxation on the back end, because just because of inflation pushes that.
What's considered a hardship?
That's
Is it plain medical, or is it unemployment? Or?
No, not unemployment, because you can't get a job. It's hard. Your tax person will tell you, but it's really, really hard. It's hardship. It's not because I have debts and I can't pay it, or I need to pay for my kids' schooling. So, yeah. So anyways, thank you so much. If you want more, you can pick up the phone and give me a call and we can set up a meeting. So.